Two problems did not just damage Verstappen after Silverstone qualifying. They exposed the one weakness Red Bull never wants next to Max: uncertainty. Because Verstappen can fight a bad grid position, he can recover from traffic, he can turn a difficult race into damage limitation better than almost anyone in Formula One. But when one qualifying session is hit by two separate problems at Silverstone, one of the fastest and most punishing circuits on the calendar, the entire paddock starts asking a different question. What if Red Bull do not fully understand what went wrong? The source confirms Verstappen's story after Silverstone qualifying was built around two damaging problems, but it does not give one clear final technical cause. And that is what makes the situation dangerous. Because if Red Bull know the problem, they can attack it. If it is tires, they change preparation. If it is setup, they change direction. If it is balance, they rebuild trust. But if the answer is not clean, then every rival hears the same warning. Max Verstappen might still be the most dangerous driver on the grid, but the machine underneath him may no longer be giving him the certainty he needs. And at Silverstone, certainty is everything. A tiny lift costs time. A nervous rear destroys confidence. A tire problem can ruin a lap before the final sector. And when Verstappen is forced to fight doubt inside his own car, Red Bull have a problem much bigger than qualifying. Two problems hit Max. One question remains. Was Silverstone just a bad session, or the first sign that Red Bull's control is starting to crack? Subscribe to the channel. Silverstone is the wrong place for Red Bull to lose certainty, because this circuit does not politely hide a problem until the team gets back to the garage. It exposes it immediately. A nervous car looks nervous. A tire problem becomes visible in the stopwatch. A setup that works in one corner, but fails in another leaves clues everywhere. And when the driver begins to lose trust, even slightly, Silverstone turns that doubt into lost time. That is why Verstappen's qualifying story feels bigger than one bad session. Because Max Verstappen is not the driver people expect to be rescued by easy conditions. He is usually the rescue plan. When Red Bull are under pressure, Verstappen is the one who drags the car back into the fight. When the balance is not perfect, he finds a limit anyway. When rivals think the door is open, he usually finds a way to close it before they can step through. But at Silverstone, two problems change the feeling. Not one, two. And that matters, because one problem can be explained away. A missed tire window, a poor outlap, a gust of wind, a bad corner, a setup compromise, a moment of traffic. Formula One is full of single problems that could destroy a lap, then disappear by the next session. But two problems create a different kind of fear. Two problems make people ask whether the weekend was not just unlucky, but unstable. And instability is the one thing Red Bull cannot afford around Verstappen, because Max does not need perfection. He needs clarity. There is a huge difference. A perfect car is rare. Even championship cars have weaknesses. They slide. They overheat tires. They struggle in certain conditions. They force compromises. Verstappen can live with that, because he can drive around a flaw if he understands it. But an unclear car is much harder. An unclear car makes the driver hesitate before he even realizes he is hesitating. It makes the steering feel like a question. It makes the throttle feel like a risk. It makes the tires feel like they might give up at the exact moment the driver needs them most. And at Silverstone, hesitation is brutally expensive. Through the fast corners, the driver cannot wait for permission. He has to turn in with belief. He has to trust the front end. He has to believe the rear will follow. He has to know the tires are still alive enough to hold the load. If he does not know that, the lap starts bleeding. Not with one dramatic mistake. With tiny losses, a little lift, a small correction, a safer line, a fraction later on the throttle. And when those tiny losses happen at Silverstone, they do not stay tiny for long. They build, corner after corner, sector after sector, until the timing screen shows damage that feels much larger than anything the viewer saw with the naked eye. That is why the first problem after qualifying was not simply performance. It was trust. Did Verstappen trust the car completely? Did the car answer him clearly? Did Red Bull give him the platform he needed to attack one of the most demanding circuits in Formula One without second-guessing what would happen next? Those questions matter because Verstappen's whole driving style depends on commitment. He is at his most dangerous when the limit is clear, not when the car is easy, but when the limit speaks to him. He can feel the edge, lean on it, and hold the car there longer than most drivers would dare. But when the limit becomes uncertain, even Verstappen has less room to work with. That is not weakness. That is physics. No driver, not even Max, can fully attack a car that refuses to give clear answers. And that is where Red Bull's problem becomes bigger than the driver. Because Red Bull's strength has always been the system around him. The car gives him enough. The engineers understand what the car is doing. The strategy protects the race. Verstappen converts it into results. That system has made Red Bull feel almost inevitable at times. Even when the car was not perfect, the operation looked controlled. They knew where they were strong. They knew where they were weak. They knew how to turn a difficult weekend into something useful. But two problems after qualifying create a crack in that image. Not a collapse, a crack. And in Formula One, rivals only need a crack to start believing. That is where the second problem becomes just as dangerous as the first. Because once Verstappen looks vulnerable, the rest of the grid does not wait for proof that Red Bull are in trouble. They attack the possibility. Ferrari look at the timing screen differently. McLaren feel the opportunity more strongly. Mercedes begin to wonder whether this is one of those weekends where pressure can finally stick. And every driver near Verstappen starts thinking the same thing. Maybe this time, he does not recover so easily. That belief changes racing. A rival who believes Red Bull are vulnerable breaks later. A team that believes Verstappen is exposed takes a more aggressive strategy. A driver who senses uncertainty defends harder, attacks earlier, and stops giving Red Bull the psychological space they once had. That is how perception becomes performance. It sounds strange, but Formula One is not only about the car's speed. It is also about what people believe the car will do. For years, Red Bull carried an aura. If they looked quiet on Friday, people still feared Sunday. If qualifying was not perfect, people still expected race pace. If Verstappen was not on pole, people still looked over their shoulder, waiting for him to arrive. That aura is powerful. It makes rivals cautious. It makes teams second-guess aggressive calls. It makes a difficult weekend feel recoverable before the race even starts. But Silverstone qualifying challenged that aura. Because two problems do not just create lost time, they create doubt. And doubt is contagious. It spreads from the car to the driver, from the driver to the garage, from the garage to the paddock, from the paddock to every rival who has been waiting for the first sign that Red Bull might not have complete control anymore. That is why Red Bull need clarity quickly. They cannot let this become a mystery. They need to know whether the issue was tire preparation, balance, setup direction, wind sensitivity, traffic timing, or something deeper in the way the car behaved around Silverstone. Because each explanation leads to a different solution. If the tires were not ready, the team can adjust preparation. If the balance was wrong, they can change setup. If the car was too sensitive to conditions, they need to understand why. If Verstappen did not have the confidence he expected, they need to know what stole it. But if the answer is vague, the problem becomes heavier. Because vague answers are dangerous around a driver like Verstappen. He does not want comfort. He wants precision. He wants to know what happened, why it happened, and what Red Bull will do to make sure it does not happen again. That directness is part of why he is so hard to beat. But it also means the team cannot hide behind soft explanations. Not with Max. Not after two problems. Not after Silverstone. Because this circuit does not just punish the car. It punishes uncertainty inside the team. If the engineers are not sure, the setup becomes cautious. If the driver is not sure, the lap becomes smaller. If the strategists are not sure, the race plan becomes defensive. And if the rivals sense any of that, they push harder. That is the danger Red Bull face now. They are not only repairing a qualifying result, they are protecting the belief that they still understand the machine Verstappen depends on. And that belief is everything. Because Verstappen can fight from a bad grid position. He can recover from traffic. He can handle a difficult car. He can absorb pressure from rivals. But if the car starts giving him questions instead of answers, the entire Red Bull structure changes. Suddenly, every session matters more. Every radio message gets analyzed. Every small issue feels connected. Every future qualifying weakness becomes part of the Silverstone story. Is it happening again? Was this always there? Did Red Bull miss something? Those are the questions a dominant team hates most, because they are not just technical questions, they are psychological ones. And Formula One history is full of teams that looked untouchable until the first psychological crack appeared. At first, everyone calls it a one-off. Then it happens again. Then rivals stop fearing the comeback as much. Then the team starts spending more time proving it is still in control than actually feeling in control. That is why Red Bull have to stop this early. They have to make Silverstone feel like a contained problem, not the beginning of a pattern. A pattern is what destroys confidence. One bad qualifying is painful. Two problems in one qualifying are alarming. A repeated weakness becomes a target. And if Verstappen becomes a target rather than Hunter, even for a short time, the entire championship atmosphere changes. That is why this first block matters. The story is not simply that Verstappen had problems. The story is that the problems appear at the worst possible type of circuit, around the worst possible driver to leave unanswered, inside a team whose identity depends on control. Red Bull do not need to panic, but they do need to answer. Because Silverstone may not have proven that Red Bull are falling. It may not have proven that Verstappen is in real trouble. It may not have proven that the car has a deep weakness. But it did something dangerous enough. It made the rest of Formula One wonder. And once rivals begin to wonder whether Red Bull's certainty is fading, they start racing like the door's open, even if it is only open by an inch. But then comes the part Red Bull cannot ignore. Because two problems after qualifying are not only about what happened on the lap, they are about what those problems do to the next decision. That is where a difficult weekend becomes dangerous, not in the moment of failure, but in the moment after it, when the team has to decide what the failure actually means. Was it a tire problem? Was it a setup problem? Was it the wind? Was it the car's balance through Silverstone's fastest corners? Was it timing? Was it simply one of those weekends where everything lands slightly wrong? Or was it something deeper, something Red Bull did not want Silverstone to expose? That is the second layer of this story. The first problem hurts the result. The second problem hurts the confidence around the result. And confidence is one of Red Bull's greatest weapons. For years, Red Bull have not only been fast, they have been clear, even when the car was not perfect. The team often seemed to understand what performance was, what a weakness was, and how Verstappen could still turn the weekend into something dangerous for everyone else. That clarity matters, because a Formula One team is not just reacting to what happened. It is always preparing for what comes next. The next run, the next tire set, the next weather change, the next strategy call, the next race.